Hey everybody, it's me, Susan Holt, and I am an artist, and tonight I'm showing a friend how to frame a painting using one of these floater frames. This is what it looks like once you get it unboxed and unpackaged. So on the back I have already gone through and marked the center points of each side so I know where to put my little clips, make the holes, drill them in, all that kind of good stuff. A couple extra ones in there because this is a small frame. I'm working at 9x12s tonight. So these are kind of standard floater frames. You can get this kind through Jerry's Art-A-Rama. Here is the stuff they come with. You get the instructions and all of the hanging hardware and wire and all that kind of good stuff, so you don't have to buy everything separately. So let me get all my screws corralled over here. All right. For tools, I have my electric screwdriver here. You can use any kind you want. I also have my handy dandy awl, and this is a composite material, so I don't need to worry about pre-drilling the holes like I do with a wood frame because I do have my awl. Of course, I have my pencil, my ruler. I have my wire cutters for cutting the wire to the right length, and I actually have a pair of pliers here to kind of round the edges of the wire as I get to that in the back, and I'll show you that when I get there. So let's go ahead and get started on this. I'm gonna go ahead and stand up. Excuse me. Then I'm gonna take one of these, and there's a side that's got kind of a sharp angle and a side that's got a really nice little flowing angle, rounded angle. The one that I put on this side of the frame is the sharp angle, and you can tell that because the other one has the stamp of the manufacturer on the bottom of this, and I don't want that showing on that side, so just hold that there on my mark, and then I carefully take my awl. I just kind of poke a little hole as close to the center as I can get it. Put that little screw in right there. Use my screwdriver. And then I do this 3 more times. If you are framing a painting that is at 12 by 12, larger than 12 by 12, I suggest using more of these little brackets on the side. So instead of just 4, you would do 2 over on, whoops, over on these sides like that, and 1 in the center. But since this is a small enough piece, I'm just going to use 1 on each side. I use my awl for this because it not only puts the point where I need it to, the point of the screw where I need it to, but it also marks where that screw goes. And I don't necessarily need to mark for a pencil mark and then this little hole, this little pilot hole for the awl with this material on the frame. I on wood frames, I will do the pilot hole, and then I will get my little drill out with my tiny little drill bit and do a little pilot hole. But like I said, on this frame, I don't necessarily need that. So at this point, we are ready to flip the frame over because we've got all 4 of our clips in place. Make sure that's in the frame for you. And tonight I am going to be framing this painting. Now, there's a lot of people who will tell you that you need to have little spacers that go in between each of these, but my problem with that is these frames and these canvases are manufactured. The frames are wonderfully squared. The canvas pieces, the wood pieces on the back of the canvas, the frame itself for the canvas should be squared, but when the canvas gets folded over, there's a buildup of material, and that throws everything kind of out of square a lot of times. So I like to kind of fit it in the frame by eye so that I have the majority of the edges equal of the painting equal to the edges in the frame. Some people don't have the spatial awareness that I have. I completely understand that. For those people, you can use foam core or mat board and just kind of build it up along the sides, but that kind of takes a long time and is finicky, and I am not a finicky person, so I like to use a low stick masking tape or drafting tape. I will show you how I put these on, because you're going to have to flip this frame back over without the painting secured by the screws, because the screws go in the back. You have to know how it looks from the front, but you have to screw it in from the back. So it can be a little bit daunting. And I did used to have another way that I did these, and I measured everything, but they never came out quite as well as doing this technique. So I've got tapes going kitty corner across each corner, and then tape strips going across just the center points of the long and short sides of the painting. So then I kind of go and I make sure that all of the tape is down on the frame. So now I can actually tighten this on both sides a little bit. This could come up a hair. And then I can kind of tweak it. So this side looks pretty good, but this side looks like it has a little bit more give to it, a little bit more space in between the painting and the frame. So I just scooched that over and put it down there. So now I make sure those are on, and then I flip this over. And I kind of jiggle it to make sure it's where it needs to be. Now I am using a fully dried, fully cured acrylic painting for this. Do not work with a wet painting on canvas for this, for oils or watercolor. Not watercolor, acrylic inks. Is that the right word? Whatever. Whatever. It's the evening, my brain has started to go to sleep. So I am just kind of eyeballing where the center goes. I've done enough of these that I know how much play I have with sideways movement and kind of back and forth and up and down movement with these clips. So I just go right in. If you are not as secure as I am with that, use a mechanical pencil. Drop a line in the center, or drop a dot in the center, and then use your awl or your drill to poke your little pilot hole with that. The reason I do pilot holes is because I don't know how long this canvas was sitting around in the warehouse before I got it. So I don't want the wood to split. And I know that they dry their wood really well before they slap a canvas on it and send it out. So with super dry wood, sometimes it likes to split, and I don't want it to split, so I do a little pilot hole. Then I can just pop my screws in. Easy peasy, no worries. There we go. And then turn this over, and I get the tape off as soon as I possibly can. I don't want to leave the tape on overnight. Even though this is an artist tape and it is low tack, I still don't want there to be a possibility of it peeling up some of my paint or my surface over the top, my protective coating over the top, varnish, whatever you want to call it. So voila, you can see the painting is not damaged in any way from the drafting tape or the low tack tape. So now we turn this back over. I already have my business card in here, but for me, because I'm an artist and I do enter into shows and I get into them, everybody wants a little tag down at the bottom. Name, size, medium, my name, price. Easy peasy mac and cheesy. All right, now we are going to put the wire hanger on. Wire hangers, when you do a gallery show, is what they want you to use. This set comes with these larger hanging wire D-hooks. You can just put them on this way for smaller canvases, or this way for larger canvases that need 2 screws. But if you do it this way, it'll only need 1 screw. However, with these smaller paintings, I do like these smaller hanging D-rings. So I do have some off to the side, and then I save these later for bigger canvases because not all of their stuff sometimes gets into the bags. So I just go ahead and use what I kind of squirrel away for later. It's not a bad thing to have some extra supplies around the house. Now, when you put on your hanging wire, which we will get to in just a moment, because I do have wire off to the side, we need to take a measurement. Most galleries say do not put your hanging wire under a third of the way down. So if you go, this is the top, you go a third of the way down, that is the lowest point you can put your wire. That's because if it's any lower than that, it kind of tends to tip forward and tip out from the wall too far, and I've seen people walk into the side of the frame because they're not paying attention to where they're going. So this one is about 13.5 inches, and I'm not real good at math, so I'm just gonna move this. I hate math. I'm just gonna move this up a little bit and go, oh look, this is like 12 inches, and a third of that would be down here at 9, so I can put the hanging wire anywhere from here up. Great. I happen to have this little piece of paper that I cut when I was doing a different project. So if I go this way, it's 2 inches down. If I go this way, it's 3 inches down from the top. And this I find to be a lot easier than trying to do math on the fly for a video. So we're just going to use this. And I am going to go with the 3 inches down on this one. Make my little pilot hole in the center right here of this part of the frame. You can just eyeball this. There we go. Then we pop our little D-rings on, or our longer D-rings. That would go right there. The hole is right here, so that far one would go there. Don't, if you're going to use these, don't put your screw through this hole, because this end will stick out off of your canvas and ruin the whole aesthetic of it all. So you got to use that end hole. And on these D-rings, this metal part just kind of loops through here. But on one side, it's always a little bit flatter. These are always a little bit flatter on one side than the other. So I try to take the side where these come up a little higher and put that up, and then the flatter side on the bottom where it meets the frame. I think you can see it better on this big one. So it just loops over, but I can tell that this side is flat and this side kind of angles back down. And when you get that screw in there, it's going to close that, but this side's going to stay flat and this will just kind of crimp over. So there we go with that. Now with our hanging wire, this is included in the kit. And it comes in a little roll like this. And there's more than enough to do multiple paintings in here. So it's handy to have around the house. It's good, strong stuff. I always like to go through both ends. And people always have an issue with how do you wrap the wire back on itself so it is the most stable and secure so my painting won't fall off the wall. So do not do this. It's just wrapped around easily, but if I pull, it comes right off. If I pull hard enough, it comes right off. So we want to avoid that. We want to protect our painting. We want to protect our work. So we have it looped through. This comes up through the D-ring. And then I think, let me measure this, because I do this by eye at this point. There's about 5 inches of wire that I have pulled through. And on a 9x12 canvas, that's a pretty good number of wraps. So I'm going to fold this forward and then bring it under the wire, and I'm going to kink it like that. Just going to make sure that's tight. It is. Great. Now we're going to start wrapping. I come from a wire wrapping jewelry background. Also, half of the people in my family are engineers. So when something doesn't go right and isn't built correctly, we all kind of do this, well, you know, that was just silly of them not to do that way. And let's figure out how to do it better. So I went online, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and I figured out that the most secure way to wrap is like doing your jewelry for wire wrapping. So we go really close and we do close wraps. I am pulling on this wire part and I'm holding the other wire in my right hand, and I am just making sure that those wraps are nice and tight and right next to each other. They're right next to each other. There's 1, 2, 3 little wraps right there. And they're really close together. And that's what you want. That's what gives it the strength. If somebody accidentally stumbles and tries to grab something on the wall and they try to grab the painting, it's never going to hold them up. Paintings were not meant for stability issues, but it will keep the painting up on the wall for as long as nobody tries to rip it down. Now, a friend of mine who is a framer told me 5 wraps on a small painting is enough, but I like to do more than that, especially on paintings that are any paintings. So on my tiny paintings, I can only get like 4 or 5 wraps across before it gets into kind of this part of the wire, which is where your nail or your hanger is going to go. We want to make sure that there's enough space here in the center for that nail or wire so it can be hung on. So as long as it's not occluding that space, you're going to be fine. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15. So if that's 15 wraps, and that is more than enough. On bigger paintings, I do 20 to 25 to 30, depending on the size, the width of the painting, the width of the span I'm working with. Now, I've cut the rest of the wire off that I don't need, but you can see there's this little sharp piece sticking out right there, and that's where we need just our regular household pliers. I'm going to take that and I'm going to bend it around with my pliers, and I'm kind of doing this kind of thing with my thumb as I twist the pliers around, just so I know I'm getting all of those little tiny pokey ends wrapped back in. Now that definitely comes from my wire wrapping days. So I don't want a sharp end to poke me when I have my hand up here trying to hang it up on the wall. So now this can have a little bit of play in it, which is just fine. It can move back and forth a little bit. On this size of a painting, it's okay if it's relatively taut. If you use these larger ended D-rings, you definitely want to make sure this is a little taut, because they will pivot up on this screw when you hang this on the wall a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. So you don't want this to be super loosey-goosey. The looser this wire is and the more play it has, the more likely this painting will not hang flat on the wall. It will kind of lean forward at the top. So there's 2 factors that make that happen. How far up or down you put your hanging wire D-rings and how much play you have in this wire. So I like to make it taut but wiggly. I'm going to just pinch it over there, and then I'm going to say, okay, well, I had 5 inches of this wire on that side, so I'm going to go about 5 inches with this wire on this side, which will give me a relatively even number of wraps. We counted 15 wraps on this side, on the first side, so I'm going to count 15 wraps on this side. When you have 5 wraps on one side and 10 wraps on the other, the side with the fewer wraps is always going to be the side that breaks, period. But if you have, for this project, 15 wraps on one side and 15 wraps on the other side, it makes it really, really strong and really, really secure. So I'll crimp that up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And you'll see me pulling the wire back and forth, and that's because I don't want it to overlap any of the previous wraps that I just did. I want them to go right next to each other, like that. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this. I'm going to be very careful that I do not cut my hanging wire that I want to stay attached to my painting. And then we have those little pokey bits again. So I'll just crimp those around. There we go. And then kind of pull up on this to see where that's gonna hang. That looks good to me. Flip it back over, and there it is. The painting is framed and ready to go. Voila. I hope you found this helpful and insightful. And that is it for me. I hope you guys have a great evening, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.